Hello, welcome to another Mono Hype tutorial. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about transient designers. So basically in the late 90s, a little company called SPL came out with something called the Transient Designer. And as you can see, it's like this nifty little box. It's got 4 channels and you can affect the audio sent through each channel by altering its attack or sustain. Really simple thing, you can boost sustain or boost attack or cut it. The interesting thing about the Transient Designer is before SPL came out with it, there was nothing else that could do this. If you wanted to alter dynamics, you needed to use a compressor or a gate and stuff like that, and they're not really very user-friendly tools, and also they have their limitations. With the Transient Designer, you can, for example, boost your attack on the snare, and it's sort of following the envelope of the sound. So there's no threshold. No matter how soft or how hard you hit the drum, it's always going to boost the attack of that hit. And it's a really, really amazingly powerful tool that's used to shape drum sounds, and it's used a lot. It's crazy how much it's used. I had no idea it was used so much. I've just discovered it. In fact, I've known about transient designers, but I've just discovered how to use them properly, and I'm using it all the time. Okay, so let's check out this track. This is something I mixed a little while ago.
It was his hood, and that was his only pops. Only one that ain't forgave a damn, but do it had to stop. It's all he got, proved heavy in trepidation. The baby on his block hotter than Serengeti Nation. Already chasing, what could put him up and right.
So basically, the original drum sounds for this track were not as aggressive, and I really needed to beef up the kick and make the attack kind of like just crazy exaggerated. And I used the Transient Designer to do this. But first, let's just take a look at the kick sound. So I'm going to bypass all the effects on this. It's just a raw kick drum. And to start off, I've just got a basic EQ running on it. It's got a little bit of a nose at like 500. So I'm just getting rid of that because I find it a bit annoying. And post that, I've got a gate. Now, it's kind of weird to use a gate on a sampled kick sound, but if you're listening to this in a club, you want the subs in the club to fire exactly for a certain amount of time, and you don't want the sustain to sort of just, carry on at odd times. And sort of the acoustics in the room will take care of the sustain, which is why I'm using a gate. It doesn't make much of a difference on small speakers, but in a big club, especially if it's got like crazy amount of sub, it'll really contain the kick drum, or at least like I hope it will. After that, I've got the Schweppes 1073. I really love this plugin. It just adds a lot of grit and character to the kick drum. And I'm really driving that kick into it. And after that, I've just got a nice clean EQ, boosting some of the lows and the highs. And taking out some of that, that mid-range, lower mid-range. So you can see I'm not using any Transient Designer plugins on this. So basically, in order to get the attack I want from the kick drum, I have the Transient Designer running on a parallel track on a bus. So I've sent the kick to bus 1. I've sent it pre-fader to bus 1, and that's because no matter, even if I make adjustments to the original kick drum fader, it won't affect how much is being sent to the Transient Designer. And I'm using the Native Instruments Transient Master. There's nothing special about this, plugin. It's just I happen to have it, so I'm using it. There are a lot of different Transient Designer plugins. Waves has this thing called TransX, which you can use. See, I think I've got that somewhere here. Yeah, so Waves has this thing. It's pretty good. It's a little older in design, and it's got a few more controls. I don't really like it so much because it takes me a little bit longer to tweak to get the sound I want. But it's a really good plugin. You can use that. It's going for really cheap right now on their site. And there are a bunch of others. If you look around, there's some free ones too. I think Flux makes a free one called what's it called? It's called Bittersweet by Flux. That's a free Transient Designer. That's great. You should try that too. But I have this, so I'm using this, and it sounds pretty good. So basically, you can see the parameters are pretty simple. It's like 100% attack, because I just want attack on that kick drum, and I'm not going to fiddle around with this. I just want a ton of attack, and because I have it on my parallel channel, I can adjust how much of that I have in the track. So let's just listen to this on its own. It sounds pretty horrible in solo, but when you bring the original kick drum back in, you see that it's just adding a lot of attack and character to the kick sound. And if I take that down and just slowly bring it in, you hear how much of that aggression is coming from the Transient Designer. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and it's so simple to use. It's crazy. I can't believe I haven't been using it all the time. I've also got some distortion going on over here, but that's just I don't even know what's going on over there, so just let's forget about that for now. So let's listen to the kick drum in the track without the Transient Designer.
It was his hood, and that was his only pops. Only one that ever gave a damn, but knew it had to stop.
You sort of hear it, but it's not really popping through the mix. With the Transient Designer,
it was his hood, and that was his only pops. Only one that ever gave a damn, but knew it had to stop. It's all he got, with heavy and trepidation. The baby on his block hotter than Serengeti Nation. Already chasing, what could put him up in Rikers? So he do nothing like this so he could spite her. So he do no wrong and never ever would be like her. It was his hood, and that.
It's crazy how much lift that adds to the kick drum in the track. I love using a Transient Designer like this. I've been using it on all my tracks. Yeah, and if this was useful for you guys, please like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And I'll see you next time.